Who's the best League of Legends player in the world? Faker, right? Who's the best top laner in the world? Gotta be Khan. Who's the best bot lane in the world? Undoubtedly Prey and Gorilla. It's pretty easy to answer some of these questions when you're thinking about competitive League of Legends like this. League is actually a bit of an interesting sport in just how undisputed the best players to play the game are. But what if I were to ask you, who is the most impressive League of Legends player? A player who's had the most storied career of successes and hardships, still managing to carry on and play professionally through thick and thin? Who's the player with the most ridiculous story of overcoming adversity that trumps all the others? Well, today we're going to answer that question talking about my favorite League of Legends pro player of all time. My first experience watching competitive League of Legends was in 2010, the World Cyber Games, a premier esports event at the time that spanned multiple games with historic moments throughout many different esports. It was here that League of Legends was first ever played on a world tournament stage as a promotional event in the 2010 games. Just 4 teams, CLG, SK Gaming, China Hero, and Another Story were invited. This tournament is most remembered for being the event that first solidified Counterlogic Gaming as one of the best teams in North America and one of the best teams in the world, where legends like Hotshot GG, Kobe24, and the rest of the gang took home first place. But hang on, who's that? That name looks a little familiar. Let's fast forward a little bit to 2011, where following CLG and their story would take us to Cologne, Germany for the Intel Extreme Masters. Here, another tournament at Gamescom where CLG and TSM would battle it out against the best teams in Europe to fight for who would be the best team in the world at the time, refighting for that title. However, this was at Gamescom, and it just so happened to be at the very same place that the first Dota 2 International was, where, oh, wait, who's that just got third place here? Huh, he has the same name. That's a little bit weird. Fast forward again to 2012, where currently the second best team in Southeast Asia, second only to the soon-to-be Season 2 World Champion Taipei Assassins, is a team called Singapore Sentinels, where, it's led by another guy with that exact same name. What a coincidence. I'd like to introduce all of you to my favorite League of Legends pro player, Chawi. He is the most ridiculously impressive League of Legends pro in just how long his career has spanned, and possibly he might be the most underappreciated pro in the history of League. Now, you may be thinking to yourself, oh boy, Jibe, is this another stupid story about an old pro that doesn't play anymore? We get it, you played League for a long time. No need to keep talking about Hotshot GG and Saint Vicious and all these relics of the past. No, you misunderstand me here. Chawi still plays competitively. Not only does he still play competitively, but he's about to head to the 2017 World Championship as the starting mid laner for AHQ Esports Club. That's right, somebody who would be the equivalent of if Hotshot GG or Reginald or Liquid112 were still playing competitively today. He's not only still playing well enough to be playing on a competitive pro League of Legends team, but he is one of the best mid laners in the world currently and headed to a Worlds event. In a world where esports players' careers are lucky to last even a couple of years, this is one player who's managed to play for the entire history of League of Legends and adapt to every single meta of the game, still playing competitively as a top mid laner today. And for some reason, nobody likes him. Chawi has played for AHQ ever since 2015, which is a team whose name might ring a bell because they're also host to the star mid laner Westdoor. Now, Westdoor is a hugely famous personality and maybe the most famous Taiwanese player in the world, second only to world champion Toys. Naturally, because of this, he has one of the largest fan bases of any Southeast Asian player, and of course, when Chawi constantly outperforms Westdoor and manages to win the starting spot for mid lane, Westdoor's fans boo Chawi whenever he comes on stage. Now, I'm not sure if AHQ management honestly think that Westdoor is a better player than Chawi, but most fans out there, most fans of AHQ would very clearly disagree. But currently, AHQ does play Westdoor over Chawi in a lot of games, possibly because of this, and you see a noticeable drop in quality from the team when you see Westdoor playing. It's honestly a little bit sad how much better Chawi seems to be and how little playing time he gets for how much better he is. For instance, take a look at this clip from one of the last series that AHQ played against Flash Wolves, where they got 2-0'd when they decided to play Westdoor both games. And in this game, game number 1, Westdoor starts the match off by getting caught out, just roaming into unwarded jungle when he doesn't have a ward to place himself, and then ends up giving up first blood and starting a snowball when he was already getting out CS'd by Maple mid lane. Both of the outer lanes, top lane and bot lane, seem to be winning in this match, in the early game at least, and you can see there's obviously going to be some opportunities, especially something like a Gnar into Maokai and the early Kalista Rakan. There are some opportunities for kills in these outer lanes, but Westdoor doesn't roam at all. He never manages to set up for any play for his team, and ultimately just slowly gets beat by Maple mid lane 1 versus 1. He shows up to team fights late, he doesn't have good Weaver's walls, and he just ends up getting outplayed by Maple incredibly hard. I mean, it just seems like Maple is a much better mid laner than Westdoor in this situation. These were games where Westdoor was getting the counter pick, or at least he was getting to choose whatever matchup he wanted, and he just ended up getting outplayed 1 versus 1. It wasn't until AHQ lost 4 consecutive games across multiple series where they failed to take a single match off of Flash Wolves that they finally decided to play Chawi in the last game, in the last best of 5 against Flash Wolves in the finals of the playoffs. And you know what happened? Things went infinitely better mid lane. Chawi manages to outplay and outfarm Maple 1 versus 1, keeping even with his Corki, which had destroyed Westdoor in multiple games, again, across multiple series. He ends up getting the first kill for his team, almost getting first blood in this match, and he has some pretty solid roam to try and help out his teammates when his teammates are losing their lanes naturally. I mean, at this point, AHQ are 0-2 down to Flash Wolves and have been consistently beaten by them in multiple series, so naturally everyone's a little bit tilted, but Chawi ends up being the lone good player, the single individual that had a little bit of hope for carrying this team, even if they do end up losing the series. It's baffling how much further ahead of Westdoor Chawi is on a purely skill basis, but what's even more baffling is the fact that AHQ management continue to play Westdoor even though he's clearly not the better option here. I guess it's not all that surprising at this point. Chawi has had a lot of unlucky moments throughout the course of his 7-year career where he consistently either is stuck on teams that aren't deserving of his talent, or he's stuck on teams that refuse to play him for one reason or another. It's actually kind of shocking. If you'd like to know more about his story, there's a great Legends Rising episode on him that I will link in the description down below. You know, my favorite NFL player of all time is Brett Favre, naturally. For those of you who don't follow the NFL, he has this insane record that's probably never going to be broken, where he started almost every single game of his career. 297 consecutive NFL starts, which is absolutely insane in just how difficult it is to do that. I mean, he started every single game, regardless of if he was injured. I mean, one game his father passed away the night before, and it's interesting how he talks about that record, where he's most proud not only that he could play, but that he could play well.
That's hard to do, obviously, but you know, along with that, you have to play at a level. Playing hurt, no one's going to say he's playing hurt, we'll let him play. You got to play well.
Yeah.
So on top of being injured, you got to play at a level. Just because you're playing hurt, don't give you an excuse. The coach, they get their ass fired over that.
Chawi is like the Brett Favre of League of Legends, but kind of with the opposite problem, where he's faced an enormous amount of adversity in just finding a team that's deserving of his talent and will actually start him. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous how unlucky he's been in that situation, but he's managed to somehow not only play League of Legends for the course of 7 years, but play League of Legends at a competitive level. Play League of Legends well enough that he can take teams to Worlds and be one of the best mid laners in the world, despite for playing for so long and having to adapt to every single meta the game has ever seen. You know, another great pro player that many people love from North America is I'mACutiePie. CutiePie is a player who has a great story, a great competitive history. He was one of the players on Rock Solid that took the world by storm and toppled the duopoly of CLG TSM, crushing every single tournament in that old era. His time on Rock Solid and Dignitas was so memorable, and he had such a storied career that he's now possibly one of the most loved, biggest, and most successful streamers in all of the West. This is his career, filled with all its successes, failures, and plenty of good times. It's an impressive career that many people look back on fondly and many other pro players wish they could have had. I wonder how Chawi would have been remembered if he was from the West.
其实没有什么好难过，因为如果不管是西门上还是我上，效果比较好，因为我觉得团队的成绩是比较重要。就是加入 AHU，就是希望能打去世界赛，能打出好的成绩。